Welcome! This video contains an introduction, an interview so you can gain deeper understanding of the subject from spirit level, and a group frequency calibration so you can start to clear the frequency distortion patterns around this topic. Enjoy!
Hi everyone, this is Karen Cheong, and I'm here with my co-host Dennis Kelly. We hear a lot about the idea of our soulmate, a twin flame, the one who completes us. And Hollywood adds fuel to the fire with stories of happily ever after. Today we're going to talk about the idea of the twin flame. After the discussion, we're going to wrap it up with a group frequency calibration to help you begin to clear the distortion patterns around this topic. So let's get started. Dennis?
As you were going through your introduction, Karen, I couldn't help but think the terms that you used, twin flames and soulmates. And I grew up in a small town, and I don't remember ever hearing this type of terminology. And so I think it was later in life, and I think as you kind of move into this spiritual movement and you start to pick up these different things. And so I'm real curious, in your mind, when somebody says twin flame, what goes off in your brain?
Yeah. Well, first of all, I think it's best if I'll tell you my answer to that.
Okay.
But first I'll talk about what twin flames are from what I understand. Okay, because I also had never heard this terminology before. So from what I understand, a twin flame is like a single flame that has been split into two. So that means that there is someone out there whose beingness completes you as one flame. So it's like you've been torn asunder or like split apart. And now there's somebody out there who you need to have in order to have completion. That's my understanding of twin flame.
Okay.
It could be something completely different, but that's my understanding. Yep. So it's a flame that has been split into two. All right. From my perspective, that is not actually something that can happen because we are complete in and of ourselves. We can be. We're meant to be. That's part of the removal of the distortion patterns so that you can become complete and of yourself. You don't need anyone to complete you. To think that in spirit that we were created with something missing that we needed from something external is actually, from my perspective, not possible. So the point is to strengthen so that you are complete in and of yourself. You don't need someone external to complete you. So from my perspective, I don't subscribe to the twin flame sort of paradigm. I think that a lot of women are, it tends to be mostly females who I've noticed this sort of terminology around. They're looking for someone to fix them, to complete them, to be their soulmate, the one who understands you, witnesses you, is with you, merges with you, completes you. So whilst that is a nice idea, that is sort of like a spiritual bypassing in a way. Because if you're always looking external to yourself, you're never going to do the work to complete yourself. Do you see what I'm saying?
Well, from a very practical standpoint, to think that during this lifetime that there's only one out there.
Yeah.
And to think that during my journey, I've got to constantly be looking out and seeking this twin flame.
Yeah.
Because if I don't match up with that,
then you're going to miss it. And then you're screwed. And you've missed your twin flame and you're done. It's like life's over. You've missed him.
And I'm thinking, wow, boy, that would lead to a lot of frustration.
And a lot
disappointment and heartache.
And a lot of pressure. Man, like what if you miss your twin flame? Yeah! Twin flame gone. Right? Yeah. There's no one. There is no one person who completes you. You complete yourself. There are many people who you can find joy with, growth with, happiness with, adventure with, play with. It's not one. You can be with many flavors. And as we change, the people that you'll match up with in terms of your resonance, especially as you do frequency work, is going to shift. And you're open to more possibilities, actually. Because as your resonation rises, you can be with more. Like the spectrum of what you can be with expands. And so therefore, there's not just one that you resonate with. There are many that you resonate with. Now, in terms of what gives you the most pleasure, how they are in a personality, all that stuff is a different thing entirely. But there's more so in fact, it's the opposite. There's more opportunity in terms of people that you could possibly match with as you transcend and as you rise in frequency, vibration, rather than a narrowing. It's actually the opposite. So, yeah. Oh, is there a question there?
Yeah, well, you know, what I was thinking about is, so you've got the frustration of looking, but also you've got that sense that, oh, guess what? I found my twin flame.
Yeah.
Now, what does that do to the relationship?
Yeah, what does that do? And also what's interesting is that I've had clients who are generally female, often, who say, I found my twin flame. And he's kind of like a total jerk to me, all right? He abuses me, whatever, whatnot, but he's my twin flame. I'm like, okay, let's back it up here. If he were really truly, first of all, I don't subscribe to the twin flame methodology, but but let's imagine that in this paradigm, the twin flame thing was the thing. Your twin flame wouldn't do that to you, because that's not the, right? I mean, if you're really truly your twin flame, there should be no abuse, no control, no manipulation, no jealousy, no whatever. If you're really truly...
You wouldn't do that to yourself,
exactly.
would you?
You wouldn't do it to your friends.
So that's not what you're seeking,
Exactly.
is for someone to abuse you?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So to me, if there's an abusive quality to the relationship, it's really a way to just justify it, to stay, because then they're like, well, I can't leave my twin flame. As you rise in frequency vibration, you do not need the other. You don't. You just simply don't. Now, I realize a lot of people will use the twin flame excuse because they're afraid of the uncertainty of leaving, even if the situation is abusive, or particularly because of that. There's fear in terms of leaving, because then everything becomes uncertain. Everything shifts. And then all these paradigms start to move around, and people don't like that. So even though it's an abusive situation, we don't want it, to move away from it is moving into the unknown. And so it's terrifying for people, and so they will justify it using this paradigm. But it's not really, that's not really the thing, it's just the excuse. Does that make sense? It's not really the source, it's the excuse.
So the comfort and the security of the abusive situation is actually stronger than my desire to step into the unknown and to grow.
Yeah.
And to...
Yeah, and it sounds really easy,
Yeah.
okay? Because let me just make it clear. Abuse and control patterns are hardcore. They're intense, they run strongly through people, especially if they include physical or sexual abuse on spirit level. That's an intense thing. So I'm not speaking about it lightly. You have to release these distortion patterns in order to move. It's difficult, because if you don't remove them, then what happens is in the next relationship, they're just going to repeat. Those distortion patterns, if they're running in you, they will call forward another partner who is exactly the same. You have to release the distortion pattern. The distortion patterns come first, the frequencies first. The frequencies govern form. So because you have these distortion patterns running through you, it will create the circumstance where that same pattern will reoccur. So even if it's the nicest, most amazing man who I'm talking about as if it's a female, amazing woman, okay, whatever gender you are, that person comes into your life and they're wonderful. Because you have these abuse patterns running into you, at some point they will conform to those abuse patterns. They have to, because they're running through you, and so they'll become abusive towards you, even if they started out being lovely. Now, I realize that sounds weird, but really, until they create form, they create your reality. So unless you remove those, it's really, really difficult to change the reality. That's where the work is. Yeah. So
it is, when it comes to this terminology, the soulmate, the twin flames, would you say the bottom line is that just to allow that to be released?
I would say so, because it's a lot of pressure.
Yeah.
And also, it's a falsehood that someone can complete you, because it's an external thing.
Yeah.
You're complete of yourself. That's the whole point.
But behind that, as you release it, wouldn't that give you a real surge of freedom?
Absolutely.
To discover not only those around you, but within you? So that I'm not looking for that to complete me.
Yeah, exactly.
Guess what? This is the project.
Yeah.
And I can, do the work and remove the distortions and increase my frequency and vibration, be happier, have more freedom, and find someone else that's, also at that level.
Yeah, and I would say that you may not, for people who do frequency distortion work, what happens is because a lot of you are vanguards and you're moving first, it's harder to find people who are at the same level as you, especially if you've been doing this for a while. So what I'll say to address that is you're just looking, now don't forget, you can, because you have frequency authority, because you're of the higher resonation, you can resonate with more people. Does that make sense?
Yep,
You have the bandwidth to be with a greater number of possibilities. So as a result, right, because you have this greater bandwidth, you don't have to find someone who resonates the same as you. You just need to find someone who's open. And because you're at a higher level of resonation, if you find someone who's open and willing to move, they get to entrain fast up to your level. So you don't need somebody who's already your match. You just need someone who's open and they'll move up. So it's really cool because you'll just hold your, especially if they have the willingness to move, you'll just pull them up.
So could you do me a favor?
Sure.
When I listen to your GFCs or podcasts or whatever, I hear you use the term bandwidth.
Oh yeah.
Quite a bit.
Yeah.
Could you just talk about what that means? What, when you talk about expanding someone's bandwidth.
Yeah.
What's going on there?
Yeah. So what happens is, what I'm doing is, thank you for asking that question, is I'm expanding your capacity to be with a greater band of frequencies because you're resonating higher. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
When you resonate lower, you can only you only have the capacity to hold a narrower bandwidth. So it's like frequencies are kind of like, I'm going to make an analogy. It's not exactly the same. It's kind of like music, right? It's like a sound. It's like a sound has a gamut from lower high, or even light. There's a gamut of light that we can see, right? Beyond what we can see, like I think infrared is, can we see infrared? I don't know, I remember. There's like some level of light that we can see up to, and then we can't see beyond, like ultraviolet or infrared or whatnot. But we know it's there. We just can't see it with our eyes, right? So what's happening is that when I'm expanding your bandwidth, I'm actually expanding your ability to experience more than you can currently. So you would, in that analogy, be able to experience more infrared, more ultraviolet, more whatever, right?
So basically, you're giving me the opportunity for greater potential.
Yes, and and just to reiterate, we need to ascend not only on spirit level but on the physical, okay? Because we're in form. Yeah, so we're in form. So because we're embodied in density, what happens is that we need to ascend physically as well, which means, what that means is that your physical ability to take in a larger spectrum of frequency, or like, as my analogy of light or sound, right? So it's similar, right? So what has to happen is you need to shed the density in the body also in order to be able to support the higher level frequency. So it's not just spirit work. You're actually physically ascending as well.
So what would that have to do with my diet, my physical activity, my everyday, lifestyle?
Yes, exactly. So what you just said, and also as you shed, you can't see it. Okay, so you can't see it. But when we remove the distortion, there's actually density that comes out of the body. So when you guys all detox, right, and you get sick, or you go through your emotional whatever it is, or your old patterns come up and you're like, bleh, right, it just feels nasty, that is actually clearing you on the physical, mental, emotional plane, which is when you start to rise in terms of your I call it physical, but let's call it physical, mental, emotional. Physical is like a shorthand. The more dense part of you, let's just say, you're clearing all that so it can hold the capacity of a greater bandwidth of frequencies. Yeah.
So this is a lot more than just kind of a energetic vibrational frequency thing from a connecting with divine. It's the human body has to be an active part of this. Oh,
absolutely. Yeah.
And that's what you're saying.
Yeah.
Is that you truly have to take care of the human body so it can vibrate at a higher level.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. And then just to return to the whole twin flame thing, right? Yeah. The stronger, and you'll naturally want to become stronger anyway as you progress. Like you'll want to release physical weight. You'll want to become stronger in your body. It just is a natural consequence of your vibration rising. You want your physical body to be able to catch up with you. And so what's going to happen as you do that is, as you can be with more possibilities, you'll also be a little bit more selective, right? You can be with more possibilities, but you'll also be more selective about who you partner with and that type of thing. You know what I mean? So you have more possibility open to you, and you're more selective at the same time. I know it seems paradoxical, but it's the same.
And I would assume that just from a draw standpoint, energetically, I would probably not be drawn to lower vibrational activities, events, people, whatever that might be.
Yeah.
Not that I'm judgmental. It's just the fact that I just don't have a.
They're not really relevant to you.
It doesn't trigger me.
Yeah. It's just not interesting to you. Yeah. So, and it's the same with, like I said, it includes people.
Yeah.
Right? So you'll just sort of move away, and
it's just natural.
Yeah, and you'll just want to. It's okay to be by yourself.
Yeah.
And that's a wonderful thing too.
Yeah.
So a lot of this, like I said, this sounds lonely, right? Because you think, oh my gosh, I don't have a twin flame, I don't have a soulmate, there's no Prince Charming, there's no happily ever after, there's no ring, like whatever, like all this stuff. It's okay because you're okay in yourself. You're comfortable, complete in your quote unquote aloneness. It's not really aloneness, it's in your completion. So it's wonderful to be by yourself, actually.
And the rest of that story, though, is the relationships that you do develop are very rich.
Absolutely.
And rewarding.
Yeah, because there's no need to control the other.
Yeah. Fantastic. Thank you, Karen.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Karen, could you help me? I hear so often when I look at your video or your website, GFC. Exactly what is that?
A GFC is a group frequency calibration, which looks a lot like a guided meditation on a particular topic. And what I'm doing is I'm helping you to remove the distortion patterns of that particular topic. And because you're coming together as a mastermind in a group to connect to pure source even more and to clear the distortion patterns of this particular topic, what happens is a tremendous amount of momentum starts to happen because of the energetic of the entire group, and each individual is able to move faster and ascend higher than they could have on their own.
Welcome everyone to the Group Frequency Calibration on Twin Flames. In this particular GFC, the focus will be on internal strengthening of self so that you are complete. And once that happens, when you attract someone, you will attract someone who is the same resonating order as you, or somebody who, once they enter a relationship with you, will open and will easily entrain up to your level. Okay, so that is the focus of this particular GFC. All right, it's about internal strengthening. So bringing your attention to the space that is your heart. And as you become aware of the space that is your heart space, taking a single breath, inhaling, holding your breath in for a count of 4, and noticing how long of a count you have chosen. Is it short or long? And whenever you're complete with that 4 count, releasing all the air out of your lungs and holding your breath out for a count of 6. Yep. So as we wait for the mastermind to gel and for everyone to complete that breath, bringing your attention, please, between your belly button and your heart space. And as you bring your attention between these 2 points into that space in your body, breathing normally as we wait for the mastermind to gel. So for those of you who are new, please note that I'm working on you at the group and the subgroup level, and that I'll be making noises on my end. So you'll hear me exhale sharply, you may hear me yawn even though I'm not tired, you may hear me hum, and occasionally I'll work in silence as I work with higher level frequencies. So just know that even if you don't hear me making noise on my end, I am still working on you. And as a further note, if I say something that resonates with you, it's likely yours. And if I say something that you have a very strong reaction against, like that couldn't possibly be me, it's likely you. So I invite you to be open and to explore that possibility. Yeah, there we go. So the mastermind has just gelled. So let's go ahead and ask ourselves the following question. How can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source? And that question again is, how can I become even more aware of my connection only to pure source? And as you ask yourself that question, please imagine, sense, feel, or become aware of a brilliance deep in the center of your body that begins to intensify as you place your awareness on it. And as it intensifies, it starts to expand outwards through all of the cells, through your bone structure, through your flesh, and eventually out through the pores of your skin into the space between your physical body and your spirit body, which is a sphere at arm's length all around you. And as you have your attention on this brilliance, it begins to intensify so much that the entire sphere starts to oscillate. And as you keep your attention on the brilliance of this sphere that is now oscillating, I'm going to be working at source level to increase your natural bandwidth, your natural capacity to connect even more with pure source frequencies. Good. Now bringing your attention, please, to your heart space all the way up to your throat. Okay, so the first distortion pattern that we're going to remove is the yearning for completion in another. Okay, so we're going to remove this. So for a subgroup of you, it's just simply this distortion pattern. For another subgroup of you, this is actually a controlled thought form. Okay, because if inherently you're not complete, then you're always going to be questing outside yourself, and it will be easier to control you. Okay, so for that small subgroup, we'll work on that distortion pattern as well, and addressing both. Okay, some of you fall into both camps. So working on this or these distortion patterns, depending on who you are. Good. Now bringing your attention, please, to your solar plexus, between your belly button and the base of your sternum. Yeah. So I'm already working on this. This is the distortion pattern of low self-worth, that you're not worthy of being complete in and of yourself. Okay, that you have to do something to deserve it. Okay, that you have to be good or kind or whatever or whatnot. Okay, you can just be it. Just removing the distortion patterns allows you to become complete in and of yourself. You're already complete. It's just that the distortion patterns cause you to feel like you're not. Okay, so just removing this distortion pattern of low self-worth, non-deserving. Good. Now coming back into the space between your heart and what I would call your upper heart. So your upper heart is between your heart space in the center of your chest and your nipple line and your throat. So right at that midpoint. Okay. So between your heart and your upper heart. Mm-hmm. All right. So this has to do with fear, and the specific fear or worry, depending on who you are, is that you're going to run out of time, or that you'll miss the opportunity, or that you'll miss the one, or whatever. So whoever you're meant to be with, whoever you partner with, is going to show up exactly at the right time. And our personal readiness for this, or when we think we're ready for this, isn't necessarily when that happens. It's sort of like the birthing of a baby. It's ready when it's ready. So we're just going to, so essentially this is a distortion around time. Okay? and resisting what is, and needing to control time, or having a fear around time being lost. Okay, that you won't have enough time to meet that person, or the timing won't work, or whatnot. So let's just remove all this. It's a pretty huge distortion pattern. And you may notice that it's not just with regards to intimate partnership, that likely this shows up in other places in your life. Similar patterns. It's a very significant group of you that fights time, generally speaking, not just with regards to intimate partner, but generally. So bring your attention, please, to your spine. You need to bring you into alignment with time, okay, so that you're in sync with time. If you're not in sync with time, it's very difficult to co-create your reality. Very, very, very challenging. Okay? So it's almost a requirement that you be in time in order to create, or co-create rather, more specifically, with pure source. So helping you to become more in sync with time. So not only can you co-create better in terms of your intimate partnerships, but with regards to everything else as well. So keeping your attention on your spinal cord, from the base of your tailbone, or the tip of your tailbone rather, all the way up through the backs of your ribs, up into your neck, and into the back of your skull. Pretty significant subgroup of you that have fear of missing out. Generally, it's an easy trigger for you, so helping you with this as well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So now imagining a tube that runs from the base of your pelvic floor through your perineum, which is between your anus and your genitals, through your perineum up through the very center of your body, up and out of your crown. And as you imagine this tube, and as we work together, this tube is going to start to become filled with either a color or a tone or a feeling or a brightness. Yep. And it represents or is your essence in connection with pure source. So however it shows up for you is perfect. Whatever you imagine or whatever shows up is exactly right. And if you do this more than once, it may change. And that's okay too. So just imagining whatever shows up in this tube, intensifying. Yep. And as whatever shows up intensifies, it starts to become so intense that it naturally radiates outwards from that tube through your body, out through your skin, into that space between your physical body and your spirit body, which is a sphere at arm's length all around you. Yeah. Good. And now the walls of the sphere are going to vibrate with either that color, tone, feeling, or brightness. Yeah. And the walls are going to go from being very thin. For some of you, it's paper thin. For some of you, there are holes in the walls of your sphere. If there are some there, you're just going to imagine the walls of your sphere becoming very smooth. So obviously they are of light, but they're going to become very smooth. And instead of being paper thin, they're going to plump up to about 3 to 4 inches thick all around you. Very even and smooth and bright. Yeah. Good. This brings us to the end of this session. I look forward to working with you on the next GFC. These GFCs help people release distortion patterns. It's my sincere hope that you benefit profoundly from this series, which is why I spend so much of my personal resources creating these as my gift to the world. If a GFC topic resonates with you, often more work that can be provided in this one GFC is needed to really clear or loosen deeply held distortion patterns in areas that are sticky. Because these patterns are like layers of an onion, usually there are multiple layers to individual topics. Depending on how much of a challenge this topic is for you, it may make sense for you to go deeper than what this session allows. If you feel this is the case for you, please visit sphericalluminosity.com for more targeted support.